Well, welcome aboard, everybody. Mike Fiffick Law Group, here with our good friends from Donnelly-Boland and Associates, the business consulting and accounting firm, also located in the Pittsburgh area, longtime partners of ours, and they offer really wonderful business-focused webinars for everybody out in the marketplace. So thank you for joining us. If you're a returning viewer, welcome aboard. We really appreciate your support for these webinars. And we really encourage you to invite your customers, your prospective customers to these events, because there's a tremendous amount of really good information that the folks from Donnelly-Boland will be sharing with you. Time management for small business owners. I don't know a small business owner who doesn't need help with time management, because there are not enough hours in the day to work in your business, but then also work on your business. And if you're only doing one of those, you're probably not growing. So too many business owners spend too much time working in their business and not enough time working on their business. And getting some tips from Rachel here on time management, I think we do a really good service for your business. So with that, I'll hand it over to Matt.
Hi, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm the Director of Communications at Donnelly-Boland, and I'm really excited to be here today. I'm going to be passing things over to Rachel, who is going to be our speaker today, talking about time management. There's a lot of really good information. We always try to be very mindful of your time, so we're going to keep this to a tight hour. And also just wanted to mention that we're having a little issue. The chat isn't working for everyone. That's on me. I'm sorry. So if you have anything, just put it in the Q&A. We will monitor that throughout. We'll try to, I'll stop Rachel if something comes up. Sometimes maybe Mike will answer the questions. Sometimes I can answer the questions, but we're really looking for that engagement. One of the great things is in the future, if you want to watch this, you can watch it. We'll have it recorded and it will be up on the Fiffick Law Group page. However, one of the best things about coming to the event is you can get real-time feedback. So as she's talking about some of the programs and the integrations here, if you have questions and issues, definitely feel free to throw something up in the Q&A and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. With that, I pass it over to Rachel.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt and Mike and Claire. I think we've already touched on it. Time management is something that is very important that a lot of people always push to the back burner. So I'm excited to be here to share some of the things that we talk internally about in Donnelly-Boland, that we share with our clients, and just try to help each other get better. So all about sharing your experiences. So like Matt said, if you find a point that you want to touch on in the moment, feel free to enter it into the Q&A box, and then we can address it in real time. I'm sure that there are some things in here that are tried and true and familiar to you, but I'm really hopeful that we can take it to the next level with some of the automation solutions that I'm going to show you here today. So just outlining what we're going to be discussing this afternoon, talk about some common challenges that everyone has experienced one time or another or always, some ways that you can identify where your time's going and how to shift that focus to things that are on your business, not in your business, and then talk about some ways to use automation to find solutions to get some of those manual efforts, out of your hands to give you back time that is really valuable that you can use throughout your days. All right, so to get everyone into kind of the same mindset, I just want to imagine, even if it was today or Monday, just starting your day out. You're arriving at work, if that's, the next room over, if you drove to your office and you're setting up your workstation from the day before, and you're looking for a really productive day. You have a general plan in your head for a project that you've recently been tasked with, and you're ready to sit down and start to work. But because Outlook was left open from when you were working yesterday, let's just check a couple emails now. You see a couple requests for a report and a customer complaint. So you figure you should probably start those before you dive into your project. And the next thing you know, it's after lunch and you haven't touched your project. So you've been distracted, I'm sure, by many things. You probably have a few windows open now, understandably, but you never started that project and you feel like you're under a constant backlog. I'm sure this feels familiar to a lot of you, and just trying to get a grasp of, at the end of the day, where your time went. So for the first poll question, Matt, if you could start that, how much time do you think you're currently spending on tasks that don't contribute to your business goals? Is it less than an hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 4? The very bold answer of you don't spend any time on non-essential tasks? If so, I'll trade places with you and you can give this presentation. Give it a couple minutes here. All right. Okay, it looks like we're sitting around 50% of us at 2 to 4 hours per day and less than an hour a day. Good for you. Okay, let's close that out and talk about exactly why you feel like you're short on time. So like we said before, some of us think, 4 hours a day of our time is being sucked away. And it's not even that it's 4 hours a day, it's that time that it takes you to start a task after you've been distracted. So it's how many interruptions there are, and it could take you up to 10 minutes to kind of reset yourself and refocus to reach back to that max productivity level. All of us are wearing many hats throughout our day-to-day, whether it be all professional hats, or maybe you're balancing some personal tasks you have at home. And having those different roles is going to cause competing demands on your time, but then also different priorities depending on what hat you're wearing. And both of those things together are going to create this backlog of tasks that you don't know how to attack, and that it's going to grow faster than you're able to complete them. So that never-ending backlog that's kind of dragging you down. So really, whenever we're thinking about time management, I think we all have in mind that we're striving for our own kind of personal work-life balance. And, that's different for everyone on this call and not on this call, but we can all center around the different activities that contribute to getting to that place. So time management in this context is really everything from planning, organizing, prioritizing, and controlling that time that you're spending on everything in your day-to-day to really produce the output that you're looking for. We talk about gaining efficiencies across the board, and really we're just reaching to figure out how to reduce all of that kind of burnout feeling. But it's not just the various activities, it's really focusing on what are the right activities that are going to help you get to that point. So it's not just everything you're doing on the day-to-day. Is it the right thing for you to do in that moment that's going to help you feel like you've accomplished something at the end of the day? Okay, so there's something called the Pareto principle, and you might have heard it in different formats as the 80-20 rule, or something that's the few cause the many, but it essentially suggests that 80% of the results of what you're doing come from 20% of the effort or the time that you're putting in. So it's not necessarily a result of everything you're doing from when you start your day to the end of the day, but it's those really high impact activities that are going to push you to where you want to go. So then that question becomes, are you doing the right things, or how do you know you're doing the right things in that 20% effort? So in order to sort out if you are spending time on the right things, start with what your goals are. So we all have a vision of where we want to be at the end of the day, but in order to figure out the direction that you need to go to get there, spend time thinking about different deadlines that you need to achieve to get there, or just essentially map out at the end of the day, my vision for my company is this. And then you can start to rely on your team and align with your team to rally behind this idea, so you're all thinking of the same endpoint on your map. Now, you want to manage your time, but how are you going to manage it if you don't know where it's currently going? So take some time to measure what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So This can be for a brief period of time to get you an idea of, are you spending your time on the things that you think you are, or are you being dragged down by tasks that are accumulating on the day-to-day? So something you can do is keep an interruptions log. This can be a one-piece paper or a notebook where you note down any time that you're getting distracted from the task at hand. You can write down things like, who was it from? How did you get that task? Was it an email? Was it someone knocking on your door? And you can start to see the time of the day that you're getting a lot of interruptions. You can also record your time for about a week. You can use something called Clockify. It's an app that we use internally to get a baseline on some of our tasking, but you essentially can start your clock, your stopwatch whenever you start a task, time it out whenever you finish that. And over the week, you're going to have a lot of information that you could look at and see what kind of trends and how you spend your time. Are a lot of your tasks really random and coming from all different directions? Or are they really routine tasks that you can see, oh, this always happens on a Monday or a Tuesday?
I just want to interrupt and say one thing. I personally did this maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, where I tried to figure out what was happening with all of my time, and it absolutely changed my day-to-day. I was able to offload certain things, and I know Rachel's going to be touching on some of these, but it's one of those things where it's a real pain to do it for a couple weeks. I think here you said to do it for at least a week. I think I ended up doing it for almost a month because I did it for my entire department, but it completely changed the complexion of where we are as a department. So from that standpoint, I think that was super.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Definitely. We rely on each other for examples, so I appreciate you chiming in there. And I think something else that it's tangible. You can look at it and see exactly my time is in this bucket or that bucket. And I think the third point I have here is something that is really important, is highlight or circle or take a note of this activity I did is going to get me to my goal or where I want to go. So you can actually see, is your color or is your paper highlighted 100%? Are there just a few lines of highlights that really show tasks that are getting you where you want to go? So I think even just like a visual check is really helpful too. So, this is really about information gathering from an objective standpoint and trying to get an idea of your starting point. So assuming that you have all of this information now after you've clocked your time, you've reached all of your conclusions, and you understand where your time's going, where do you now find the roadblock? So what kind of challenges do you now struggle with that information, and how to use that information practically? So do you find you struggle most with prioritizing, minimizing your distractions, even just planning, or delegating responsibilities? Okay. All right. For minimizing distractions is a big one. Personally, I also agree that's huge for me. And then it looks like lack of planning and prioritizing. Delegating responsibilities, no answers. We'll see you there. I think that there are some maybe nuanced solutions that you're not thinking of that could help you too. Okay, so I think one tool that you can use to prioritize all of the different tasks that you experience day to day is something called the Eisenhower Decision Matrix. So this is rumored to have been produced by Ike himself during his presidency, saying that he had 2 types of problems, urgent and important. So there are a lot of different iterations of this kind of quad chart, but they all are getting at the same thing of how to sort your information by urgency, which in this context is requiring immediate attention, or importance. So importance here is asking the question, is this going to help me achieve my long-term goal or my long-term vision? So for the tasks that are urgent or important, the action in that box is do it immediately. These are typically deadlines, critical tasks that pop up. The second box here under not urgent and important is decide, and this is where you should schedule time for it. This is your 20% effort bucket. So these are all the tasks that get pushed to the back burner that you need to be focusing on to move your business forward. If it's not urgent and it's not important, don't do it. Eliminate it. Think of this as your time-wasting activities like doom scrolling on social media. And then the final box is an urgent task that isn't necessarily important, that's not going to move you forward. You can delegate that task. So these can be things from interruptions or really routine work that doesn't necessarily require a lot of strategic thinking, but it's very important to get done. So first, we'll start off with that urgent and important box of do. So these are the things that you have to take action on, right? They're your customer complaint emails that you need to address right away. They're the crucial deadlines, whether they be for your projects for clients that you're working with or business deadlines like your taxes that sneak up on you. Or they can be things like operational issues, like you find out your emails haven't been going through and you need to, communicate out, drop everything and let people know why that's happening, things like that, that you just have to take care of right away. So some techniques on how you can prioritize those types of tasking. And the first one is deadline proximity. So you have these 3 urgent, important tasks to get through. Which one needs to be done first? Impact and consequences. So this can be positive or negative impact. So think of the different tasks that you have and say, if I complete this one, it's going to help me achieve this other task, and that's really positive impact. So I'm going to do this one first. Or if I don't do it, it's going to snowball into other issues, and I need to put that at the front of the line. And then the third kind of bullet point that you can evaluate is alignment with goals. So we know that they're important and they impact my business. So how can I tie that into the deadline or the impact that it's going to have and push that one forward before I go on to other things? So unfortunately, these are the things that are going to pop up on a day-to-day basis, but then we can kind of evaluate them faster and then prioritize them accordingly. So the next box is decide. So decide is that box where it's saying schedule it. And these are typically the tasks that get pushed to the back burner because they're not urgent, but they have such high importance in making sure you get those strategic planning type things done. So whether it be projects that you're working on to build out teams within your business, whether it's sitting down and reviewing your finances on a regular basis, all of those things that can start sliding down to scale, you can use the technique called time blocking to make sure that they get done. So time blocking is a technique where you schedule very specific blocks of time set aside for tasks or activities. So you can do this on a day scale, or I like to do it on a week scale. And it really helps you allocate time across the week instead of feeling everything needs to happen at one time. So this is another opportunity to go back and review that list of where you spend all of your time. So whenever I think of my weeks, I think of Mondays and Wednesdays are really light meeting days for me. So I'm going to take that time to schedule my 20% effort tasks. Things like that. Whether you want to bookend it with a planning session and then a wrap-up session for reflection, time blocking is all about setting aside the specific amount of time and thinking only about that thing. And you can use additional types of techniques on top of time blocking. So if you look at my example, you can see different colors. So for me, I like to color all of my client calls in one color, that teal color, versus organizing myself is purple. And then that olive color is the strategic thinking types of tasks. So whenever I open my calendar, I can see at a week glance, Tuesday looks like a pretty client heavy day because I know what that color means. Another thing that you can start to do is add reflection time. So if you find that you're not good at following up after you have a lot of meetings, put a buffer at the end of the day where you get a notification on your calendar that says, hey, you had 3 calls today. Sit down and take some time to see where you need to follow up within the next week or a few days. Or you can add some buffer time. So if you know you have a presentation and you don't want someone to schedule over you, put that 30 minutes beforehand as a way to prepare. So this is really a good way to see where you have time, where you don't have time. So whenever you get hit with those really urgent, important tasks, you can see what's immovable in your schedule versus where you could start to slot in some other areas where you have free time to address the different priority levels. Okay, so we said minimize distractions is a hard part of everyone's day. So this is typically where you find tasks that you need to eliminate, but it can also just be a layer to help reinforce that time blocking. So think about creating something called a do not do list. Reflect on where you really have non-value adding tasks like doom scrolling, or if you're a really easily distracted person, you can try to find different types of alerts that pop up throughout your day that, kind of trigger you to move away from something. So if you keep handy that list of activities that pull you away from what you want to do, that just having that list in front of you is a good reference. Another thing that you can do is kind of find your focus zone. So look at your environment around you. Do you prefer to work in complete silence or white noise? Maybe music helps you block out road noises or things like that can help you focus in. Do you like sunny rooms? Do you prefer dimly light room? Even things like that kind of help set the atmosphere so that you can just focus in on what you need to do. Another technique is something called the Pomodoro technique, and this is something that can be referred to as batch tasking. So essentially, you set yourself up to start your task and you work in intervals. So you set a timer and you work for 25 minutes straight. And you know that that's all you're going to do for 25 minutes, and then you get a 5-minute break. And then you do a few cycles of that over and over again, and then reward yourself with a longer break. So this is a good way to say, I'm going to set aside 2 hours, and I know I need to be able to pace myself to get something done. So you could set up this technique. Setting tech boundaries is huge because I'm sure everyone has open an email, they have like your phone open, there's different types of apps that are constantly popping up, which really great ways to communicate across different teams, customers. It's really beneficial, but you need to be able to add in that boundary layer to say when I need to stop these distractions from coming through. So one example is just using a very simple feature on your phone, do not disturb. So this image that I have on the right here is actually a feature that was built into my phone. I have an Android, so no comments from the iPhone folks, but it's something called routines. So you could set up routines that automatically turn on and off throughout your day to facilitate the type of schedule you want to build for yourself. So for example, I set aside time every Wednesday from 8 to 10 as a focus block for a big project that week. So anytime I have this routine turned on, it automatically turns my phone on to do not disturb. So it shuts off all app notifications no matter what. I do allow some phone numbers through in case, there's an emergency call, but other than that, I have all of my apps restricted. So no one can really reach me unless it's an emergency. And then I don't need to think about it on Wednesday morning. I know it's already going to start and turn off whenever my window's up. And you could set multiple of those throughout your day, depending on what your workflow is like. There are also things you can do, like pause your notifications. So the other image I have here is from Slack, which is a messaging tool that we use internally and across clients to shoot messages out throughout the day. And you can actually sync it with your calendar so that it'll shoot up a little meeting symbol and say, I'm in a meeting right now. So it signals to others that, you're unavailable right now, but then it also pauses those notifications so that you don't see them pop up in the corner. And then there are a lot of things you can even do on your desktop. If you search in the search bar, productivity apps or just productivity, sometimes you could see in your settings that there are things like muting notifications when you're presenting that you don't necessarily know are there, but are opportunities that you can limit outside interactions. And then finally, just set those boundaries with other people too, and understand that, today is a really client heavy day. My door is going to be closed. If you need something, shoot me a message, just maybe don't come in that day. So just understanding how your workflows can impact your day-to-day is also really helpful to minimize distractions. Okay, and then in that final block where the items are urgent but not important, so they don't necessarily align with your role or responsibilities, but you were always the go-to person, right? How do you redirect those to someone else? So delegation here is having the perfect handoff. It's not pitching tasks over the fence and, expecting someone to pick them up and running. So you need to clearly identify what you're handing off to another person. Clearly define what the task is, when it's due, who the key stakeholders are, outline the expectations. So include any background information you have, allow questions to be asked whenever you hand that information over to, and tell them why it's important for them to accomplish the task. And then set up for success, have a check-in meeting after you let them work for some period of time, have that communication line open so that you can support them in getting the effort done. And then finally, you can identify who, right? So you need to understand if the person you're handing the task off to has the capabilities or the resources to accomplish that. And if not, how can you support them to do so? Availability and bandwidth, do they have the bandwidth to complete the task in the amount of time that you need it to, right? If it's urgent, that means that there's some type of close deadline. Are they able to accomplish it within that window? And then finally, is it a learning and development chance? Maybe they don't necessarily have the exact skill set, but maybe this is something that they've been interested in learning and really helping them understand. Maybe it's a new process or just a new work area, helping them understand it and teaching them and coaching them throughout the process could help them be a resource in the future for another pipeline of tasks that are going to inevitably come your way. So I know that we're talking small businesses here. Even if you work in a larger business, there sometimes just are areas or functions that don't exist. So you don't necessarily have someone to delegate to. But this is where you can start to rely on software automation to sub in for a team that you don't necessarily have, or to take over the tasks that aren't really beneficial for anyone to do that are manual in effort. So the benefits of automation is letting you work on those 20% tasks, right? Value add activities, they're going to help you grow the business. And then in addition to that, they're going to reduce human error. A lot of the points of automation is to make something really repeatable and consistent in its results, right? So you're going to hand some process over or some workflow over, and it's going to be done in the exact same way each time. And I think a huge area of automation is improving customer experience. And it might not be the first thing that you think about, but if you think about your day-to-day tasks and all of the things that you would want to do, or the nice to haves, responding immediately to customers whenever they send you a review, things like that, thinking outside of the box on where you can start to sub in automation to help, boost your business's image. And the last benefit I have here, I think is really important, and it can go across a lot of things professionally and personally, is that you're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to have the energy to go full force. So sub in automation where you're not always going to be motivated. These are routine tasks that get lost at the end of the day. And if you could sub in a platform to take it over for you, it'll just free up your time to focus on the energizing tasks of your day. Okay, so there are different layers to automation, and I know everyone's perception of what automation could be is different. So we're going to start off with the most basic layer of what I'm considering automation, and that's built-in automation. So these are automation features that are included in the platforms that you're already using every day. So I gave the example of the work routine on my phone earlier as a personal example, but another example would be in Google Workspace. You can create specific labels and filters within your email. So let's say I know all of the emails coming from this email address are going to be related to a new position my team posted. I'm going to set up a filter that says anything from this email address, and we're going to label it as job. It's going to automatically mark the email as important, and it's going to make sure it goes to my main inbox and not spam or promotions somehow, right? So what this is doing is it's already flagging something you know is important. So if you get emails throughout the day, you're not going to have to search for it. You could just click on the label and it'll pop it up to the top of your inbox. Another example that we love as an accounting firm, right, is in QuickBooks Online, you could set up roles for transaction categorization. So whenever you log into QuickBooks Online, if you have experience with this, you'll have a banking feed of all of your transactions. So you can set up roles that will automatically take really common transactions and categorize them for you. What this is doing is it's recognizing something that happens all the time and categorizing it consistently across the board. So in the example I have here, I created a role called biz insurance so that anytime a condition comes in where the description of the transaction matches this insurance agency, it's going to categorize it as insurance. So I don't have to worry about if I'm off and someone else is taking over this responsibility for the day, how they're going to categorize it. I've set up this role in the system to recognize it automatically. Third example I have here is using Gusto. So this is a payroll and HR platform that makes it really easy to send offer letters to new employees and automatically start their onboarding process, right? So you can create a custom checklist one time and apply it to every single employee that you want to onboard from there on out. So it'll invite them to have an intro meeting with their manager, complete any assigned trainings and meet with the team and tour a facility is the example I have laid out here. So what you're creating are really repeatable systems that allow others to have the same experience, and it's going to reduce, did I do that task? Did I assign this or not? Because it's going to happen the same way each time. Okay, so the next layer of automation that I want to talk about are platform integrations. So this is where we get one more step complex. And integrations here refers to the connection of syncing two different platforms together to create workflows across systems. So in this type of a platform integration, both of these are in-app features. So I can go into HubSpot, which is a CRM system that houses all of my sales deals. And I can go into something called the app marketplace, which is a common term for a lot of these different automation platforms across different systems. So I can look at the marketplace and I could say, our team uses Slack for internal communications, and I can connect HubSpot to Slack to send real-time updates to my team. So I know that anytime a deal is closed, that deal is going to be closed in HubSpot, and then it's automatically going to notify everyone on my team at the same time that that has happened. And some of these integrations work in the opposite direction too, where I can look at something in Slack and I can add a note and it'll automatically sync in HubSpot. So instead of having two windows open all the time, I can go to one window in Slack and I can operate HubSpot from there and know that all of the information is going to be updated at once to cut down time. Now, the second type of platform integration that I think is really powerful is using a third-party platform. So Zapier is the most common, and there are others called If This, Then That. But Zapier is a web-based automation tool, and it allows you to take systems that don't have app marketplaces and let them talk to each other. It doesn't require any code or specific technical expertise. And it's a platform that has a lot of great resources too, of things that are already built out and demonstrated for you. But the key thing to think about here is kind of this phrase of, when this happens, automatically do this. So when I want one thing to happen, I want another thing to happen, and I don't want to think about it after that, right? So walk through a couple of examples. The first one is managing multiple calendars. So maybe your work calendar is in Outlook, but then your personal calendar is in Google, and you're constantly going back and forth and saying, okay, well, I need to leave early for this, but I'm scheduling a meeting then, and manually blocking time off. Using Zapier, you can set it up to say, anytime I create an event in Outlook, it's going to create an event on Google Calendar. So that eliminates having to duplicate information across the board. And you could set it up so that it only sends specific information, like I'm going to be out of office, not why you're out of office. Another example is sending project updates. So for example, let's say you use Notion for all of your task management and project management for a client, but the client doesn't necessarily want to add another platform to their day-to-day. So they're not going to go in Notion and see the updates, but it's still important to communicate progress. So in Zapier, you can set it up so that whenever you update a specific project, it'll automatically create a draft email for you in Outlook with key project information. And I say draft so you can go in and review it before it's sent, and edit specific information and say, this is why this was updated. This is why the deadline is a week out versus a week early. And you can really customize it before you can send it out to all the stakeholders at one time. Another example is if you often have events where you want to check attendance in person, using Eventbrite, anytime a new attendee registers for your event, you could set it up to create a row in a spreadsheet you have that you can automatically print out right before the meeting, and have people check in. This will reduce having to go into Eventbrite and download the CSV file and then convert it to a spreadsheet to manually edit it. It'll automatically take the new attendee, first name, last name, email, whatever information you want into a spreadsheet that is ready for you to go. And then another example I wanted to point out is if you want to stay on top of your reviews, if you recently set up a Google My Business space and you find that for your business perception or to gain new customers, it's really important for you to start cultivating reviews, and you want to know when to respond to those reviews when they come in. In Zapier, you can set it up so that anytime a new review is posted to your business, you can create a draft email response to that person that posted it. So you can set up a template that has a basic format of a response to the review, and then go in and then tweak it to that specific person's review. Check out if there's, any spelling or anything like that, and then you could send it off so that you don't have to do the upfront work to drafting an email. I got a review and my template is ready for me to go, so I can stay on top of that and start increasing my rating. So Zapier's a really easy to use interface. There's thousands of options depending on your apps, but it really comes down to looking at where you're spending your time and where you can automate some of those things that are manual, or to help you get a leg up on how you're already performing. And a lot of these are one-to-one, right? You do one thing and another happens, but you can start to build on these and can start to build out workflows to accomplish larger efforts. Finally, I wanted to make everyone aware of how far automation can go, right? This is probably some of the more complicated things you could think of whenever you think of automating processes, and that's really high code automation. So this would be having multi-step automations across maybe platforms that aren't in the popular market that were created for you, that have many different variables you need to automate across. They typically are very flexible to your situation because they're custom for you. The downside of that, they're complex and they require technical expertise to build out, and they can be not easy to update. You can't go in like you can Zapier and change one thing. You have to maybe reach out to the outsourced team you hired to build it out for you. But this is an option if you're finding, you have certain types of niche platforms that you need support with. Okay, and then finally, because it's everywhere through everything now, use ChatGPT from OpenAI. And I know if you joined our last presentation, Matt Fazio touched on this related to marketing, but I think really you can use it to save brain space everywhere, right? You are makers, you work in the service industry, maybe you're technologists, do what you do best and save that important brain space for those types of things, and use this for the 80% tasks, right? These are routine meeting agendas, FAQs, email templates, poll questions, maybe, right? All of these things that really drag you down. And this is a starting point, right? You can use it to start with a task and really customize it to, how you speak or how you want it to feel and things like that. So don't discount it. Definitely try to play with it. I know there's tons of resources out there. It's worth time.
Sorry, I'm going to hop in one more second for the ChatGPT talk. When it first came out, I was just like, there's just no way. It can't be that good. It is remarkable. If you haven't used it yet, I would really, really encourage you to check some things out. Bing AI, Bard, and ChatGPT all do similar things. Of the three, I think that ChatGPT has the best results. And don't think that just because you ask it one question, it's perfect. It's going to take some time to get to understand the AI to understand what you're asking. But as you get more and more precise with the prompts, you can get really good results from it. One of the things that you can do is you can teach it about your organization. So you can keep feeding it information about who you are, who you like what type of clients you want to have, how you want to grow. And then every time you go back and ask it questions, it already has that base of knowledge. So it's coming at you with those things. So when you say, create me new questions for a survey, they already know the AI already understands your organization a little bit better. So this is something worth spending some time on.
Definitely agree. It's even helpful as a sounding board, right? Like if you write an email yourself, copy and paste the info and say, does this make sense? Where can I improve? It's helpful in every aspect. Okay, so covered a lot of ground there in terms of the different ways that you can use things like Zapier to make your day-to-day easier. So which type of time management tools or platforms are you more interested in exploring? Is it the AI platforms like ChatGPT? Is it more time tracking? How can I get better at that? Calendar apps for time blocking? Where are you interested in learning? You sold them on AI platforms. No, it's good to know about project management softwares up there too, note-taking apps, anything to get it out of your brain and on paper is also helpful too. So. Okay. Just wanted to note that I talked about a lot of platforms and I made sure to emphasize that a lot of these platforms either have free tiers of their model or they have free trials, but if you find yourself really seeing the value in, going into a subscription for one of these platforms, here's some criteria and ways to evaluate a platform before you put in that investment. Map out your criteria and what's important to you. If you find you need a certain feature, like if you have to have it integrate with Outlook, make sure that that's high up on your list. If cost is a factor, consider that too. Start to rank what's important to you. whenever you start looking to either find a new platform or go deeper within one platform. And following up on that, take the demo. You know, a lot of these platforms have the opportunity to sit in on a sales call. And yes, they are a sales call, but that's also your opportunity to vet out the platform and ask really pointed questions specific to your situation. This is also your chance to ask for a free trial if it wasn't advertised, or often they have discounts depending on what type of business you are, or if you start to get into different payment structures, like it's getting someone on the phone or in front of you to just ask, is this really what's going to fit with my criteria? And then weigh out those costs. You know, whenever you're weighing out the costs, compare it to your time spent on that task or your team's time spent on that task, and see if it's, you know, worth it for you relative to how much this platform could cost you. Finally, you also always have the option to partner with an expert, right? So there are a lot of different people that are able to support you from selecting that criteria all the way to implementing that platform. You know, we work with clients a lot in the systems that they have, and sometimes, you know, we get in there and say, you know, you're not doing this in the most efficient way. We would recommend this, and we support them in saying, you know, this is the plan tier that would work best for you. And we actually, you know, support moving that information to the new platform and setting up some of those integrations so you don't necessarily have to do it on your own, but, you know, expect that partner, a good partner, is really going to understand your process and take the time to understand, you know, your pain points so that they can address them in a solution. Okay, so high-level takeaways from today is really take the time to identify your time and where it goes relative to the goals that you have and the challenges you're encountering, prevent you from getting to your goals. Sort out what you should do and what you should not do, and then use the right type of automation to fit the types of tasks you're encountering. You know, you don't necessarily need the huge high code automation for a process that is ingrained in something you already use every day. But the main goal here is, I think Mike said it best at the beginning, is to shift your time working on your business and not in your business. With that, I will wrap up with any questions or thoughts we have in the chat box.
So throughout this presentation, we've been answering almost all of your questions right in the Q&A in real time. So that's been helpful. But if you have more questions, you can ask now. I will say that after this session is over, what we do is we take the video, we send it over to Claire. Claire puts it up on the FIFIC Law Group page, and then you'll get a brief survey from us. Again, this is a 2-minute survey and it benefits you. You tell us what you want to see in the future. We really love doing these sessions. We love meeting new people. We love connecting with people. We love being a resource for people. So if you like something and you want to see a seminar on it, let us know. We really take those into consideration. Also, as it was mentioned in the Q&A, we will ask you if you really enjoyed today's session, if you thought Rachel knocked it out of the park and you'd be willing to give Donnelly-Boland a 5-star Google review. We would super appreciate that. Google reviews are incredibly important and you should be thinking about them for your business. Mike, I know that you just had a session. I think you may have had 2 sessions on Google reviews, right?
We did. We have a 2-part series. I think Claire facilitated that, but there was a lot of great information in there.
Yep. And one of the questions right now in the Q&A is, does our company offer this type of support? And the answer is yes, we do. And more than likely you'd be working with Rachel. And there are so many different platforms out there, and trying to find the right platforms and the right fit for exactly what you need sometimes can be really cumbersome and really hard. And doing that upfront time investment can be really scary. So sometimes partnering with somebody may make sense. So if you're ever interested, you'll have our information and we'd love to, see if it would be a good fit.
I think there were a couple of questions in the Q&A that were open, Matt.
Right now, so Jimmy said he learned so much from the 2 webinars on Google Business. That's awesome. Super great to hear. And then also, what should I prioritize when publishing a book? Or are you talking specific? I imagine you're talking specifically about ChatGPT. I think that what that comes down to is prompting. If you don't know what AI prompting is, take an hour one day and just type it into YouTube and look what AI prompting is. The words you use, the order in which you use them is going to really tell the AI what to do. So a really great prompting tool is to say who you are to start. So say like, I am a communications director looking to talk with my communications team. Like, set up the conversation so that they have more context to know what to do. If you're trying to write, let's say you're trying to write an ebook about a particular industry, say those things up front to get some of those things going, and you start that conversation. It's not like you type in one thing and say, write me a book and just do this. It's not going to have the feel and texture that you're looking for. So you're looking for some of that back and forth that way.
I just answered Jimmy's question in the Q&A. I put the links to the part one on our Clover Lane YouTube for the Google Business
Awesome.
webinars. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is a good hack to suggest that you use ChatGPT for some of those business functions. That's a pretty good idea. I'll have to check that out. So.
Oh yeah, he said, Matt, learning how to promptly use ChatGPT prompting sounds like an excellent topic for a webinar. Totally agree. You're probably not going to meet too many people who are as interested in ChatGPT or other AI like I am. I actually just gave a presentation at Point Park to their faculty about it, probably about a month ago.
Well, it's here to stay, right?
Yeah,
I've been hearing reports that about 30% of white collar jobs are going to go away over the next however many years.
And I think
AI is going to be part of it.
I think the piece that people are missing is that they say, well, that couldn't do all of my job. You're right. Maybe it can't do all of your job. But if there are 5 people on a team and it can do 50% of everybody's job, guess what? At least 2 people lost their job. That's where it's losing jobs. It's losing the number of jobs, not necessarily every facet of the job. And I think that that's the missing link that people are not always thinking about. Ooh,
So if you hate chatbots, well, they're here to stay.
yeah. Awesome. All right. You will all be receiving an email from Donnelly-Boland's communications department, and that will be a recap of today's session as well as the link to this whole session. A couple people chimed in that they got in a little bit late. You can go back and watch all of it. Rachel put a lot of time and effort into this, and I really think this was super helpful. We always try to keep it to under an hour, and I think we knocked that one out of the park. All right. Thanks.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Claire.
Thank you.
Take
care,
care.
have a wonderful
Great.
week.
Thanks so much.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.